All right. So let's say if we have just Excel as in source, then the way we will have the data is we will have all the columns in one spreadsheet, right? There will not be any ID columns here. So let's say if I take an example of a name, so we have employee name, and then we have department name, and then hiring date, and then let's say we have salary, and then city, and then let's say we have the job title. Okay. Generally, we would have this sort of information. So the only difference you would have when you work on the transactional database or any analytic database is they try to break this table down and then only hold the IDs instead of that specific column names. So let me add few more columns here. So let's say we have department, region, and then we have a department head. Okay. So you see we have a few columns here, and then let's say this company is growing. So each year they would like to track different entities here. So let's say towards the end of the year, they also wanted to track uh, uh, let's say the department city. Okay. So you could see this table is actually growing as the time goes by. So what they try to do is instead of storing all this information in one place, what they try to do is they try to categorize the data here. So we have the department name, right? So let me try to categorize this data here. So they have the department name, they have the department region, they try you have department head, and then we have the department city. This is categorized as one because they are same here, and then we have the other category here, which is the employee name. When was that employee hired? What's the salary? What's the city of an employee? What's his job title? Right. So what they basically try to do is uh, every employee is given an ID, right? So for employee, so they try to break this and then create two different tables. So table one will be here as employee table. Okay. And then this one, it will be employee name, hiring date, salary, city, and then we have job title, right? Next category, what we have here is the department-based information. What they try to do is they try to name that as a department table. Okay. And then we copy this column here. Based on this, we create this this table. So are you guys able to follow till here?
Yes, I had a question. So, who is categorizing this? Is the system categorizing it, or does the company categorize it before it's ready to load?
So this process will be done by a data architect. He'll be working closely with the business users here.
Okay.
So let's say there's like a head of marketing department. He knows about the front end system. So let's say they are using Salesforce. So Salesforce will have a lot of information on the front end, right? So how many customers they have, how many new customers they have, how many sales, how many renewals they have. So at the back end, there will be a specific database for the Salesforce. So the data architect will be working closely with the marketing team, trying to understand what's their data, and then based on that, they will try to create this dimension model. So this process is called dimension modeling.
Uh,
Okay,
mhm.
dimension modeling done by data architect. Okay. But in terms of how we group this and then created those two different groups, so you were able to follow that, right?
Yes.
Okay. All right. So if I go back to the Northwind data set, this is what you will be able to see. So if I pick example of, let's say, employees table. Okay. So you see first name, last name, they want to store not the full name, but they want to have one column for last name, one column for first name. Then we have the title, and then date of birth, hire date, address. So those kind of all information. And as I mentioned, as the company grows, instead of just tracking this 4 to 5 columns, they would for sure like to expand and then track the other data points as well. So as you're able to see here in the Northwind data set, so you see they also are tracking the photo path as well. And then they have specific notes as well. So anything you want to track related to your employees, so you'll be able to add the columns here. So let's say you want to have this notes, then you would add another column here, and then this will go in this orange category. Okay. And the other thing, I think for now this should be good. So if I come back again here, you could see that we are able to track all this information. But one thing what we are doing to this information is to have each row in this table to have a unique identity. We are assigning an ID. So whenever you work at a certain place, you are given an employee ID, right? The reason for that is they could be two different person with the same name. So the only way to differentiate is by the employee ID and then by the date of birth. So that's the reason. So to have that uniqueness, we will be given that employee ID. So right now, this in this Northwind data set, it's pretty straightforward. It's the numeric numbers starting with 1 and then going in an increment. But the companies could have different naming convention. So let's say we are adding an employee ID column here. So let me mark this as yellow. Okay. And then they could follow any naming convention. As I showed in a Northwind dataset, it could be 1, 2, 3 in a sequence, or it could be they have some kind of prefix, UB02, UB. They could be skipping numbers. So anyway, they are trying to randomly generate this number, but they are trying to make that uniqueness of each specific row. So they could be same names here. So they could be Murtuza here, and then also a different employee with name Murtuza, but different job titles and all. But the employee IDs will be different here. Okay. So the key thing for us to understand is the same thing here. So we have the department name. So let's say we have the department as sales, and then let's say we have the department as marketing. Okay. And then let's say this is in South region, and then this is in West. And then department head is, so let's say Mohammed, and then department head is Mohammed. And then here, so let's say we keep this one as, so for now, let's say this is in Chicago, and then this is also in Chicago. Okay. So here you see I'm maintaining this department table separately, and I have this employee table separately. So for now, this will be two different entities. It would be more kind of like a two different Excel tabs where we are not able to see any relationship between, let's say if you are picking employee ID UB 002, we don't know to which department he belongs, or to which department region he belongs, or which department city he belongs. So they need to be the same process followed for the department table first, where we have a unique identifier. Okay, so then what we do is we add a department ID column here. So it will be DP 001, which will be sales department, and DP 002, which will be the marketing department. So let me mark this as orange. So are you guys able to follow till here? Any questions?
No questions.
Okay. So next, when you're filling this information for an employee, so let's say if you hired this person, the employee ID UB02 for the sales, then what you basically do is, to the same table, instead of adding all the columns the way we were doing it here, containing all the information in one specific table, we just add the department ID here, and then we say we are assigning this person to DP 001. Okay, and then here you would have this is where the relationships will come in picture. So when you are having a relationship between this employee and department table, so you would be relating based on this department ID what we have here, and then department ID what we have in the department table. So this is how we will be able to get the information that this first employee, he belongs to sales department and then belongs to the South region, and department head is Mohammed, and then the department city is Chicago. Okay. And this goes the other way as well. So let's say if you want to see all the employees that belongs to marketing department. So what you do is you pick marketing, and then based on that you get this ID. You try to filter this department ID column based on this department ID, and then you will be able to see all the employees belonging to the marketing department. Okay. So if I come back here, if I go to the Power BI, so let me clear my drawing, close this, and I think there is one product table. So let's see this. Okay, so you could see here, now you'll be able to relate. So we have product ID, and then the reason for having a product ID. So the product ID is basically the called as the primary key. So let me write this down. So this is the primary key, and this is also a primary key. And so primary key will be unique. Okay, so there are other characteristics as well for a primary key. To keep it simple, let's say this is a unique key. Okay, and this department ID, so we have department ID here, and then we also have the department ID here. When the department ID is within its own table, so we have this department table, then this is called as primary key. But if the department ID from some other table is sitting in another table, then this department ID within this employee table is called a foreign key. Okay. So any question for this?
Assalamu alaikum, Mahmood bhai.
Walaikum salam.
Okay, I just have a question. So in comparison to SQL, this would be the join function, right?
This will be no. This will be the schema of a table.
Oh, schema. Okay. All right.
Yeah.
Okay.
So it will be table schema. So in terms of join, so it will be select star. I'm sorry. From, so let's say employees EMP, and it will be inner join. We have for DEPT on. So we will take, so let's say we give an alias here as EMPS E, DPTS D, then it will be D dot department ID is equal to E dot department ID. So this is how we will join. The same thing in Power BI will be just a relationship. So this joining condition is like this relationship. Okay.
Okay. I got it. Jazakallah.
Yep, no problem. So any questions? So Sabah, are you able to follow?
Yes, it makes a lot more sense. Thank you.
Okay, so now let's come to Power BI here, and then we are taking a product table as an example. So we said that product ID is a primary key, a unique identifier, and let's say what all tables are able to connect with the products table. So let me take a new layout, and then let me drag and drop products table here. Okay, so this is what we are trying to focus, the products table. And let's click here and then say add related tables. So you could see we have a lot of tables connecting to products table, but for now we are only focusing on tables that are connecting using the product ID. So you could see we got the first relationship here, which is connecting using the product ID. So let me scroll. So we have the product ID here. So this is how we will be able to join these two different tables here. Okay. So here, if I pick only the first row as an example, then we are saying that the product name chai has the product ID 1, and this product was supplied by the supplier ID 1. And this is not having the information of the supplier ID details the same way it was over here. We are having all the information, everything put together here, but instead of that, they did the dimension modeling, and then they have only stored the ID the way we have the department ID. So we have to look for chai, who is the supplier ID. So we don't know that. And then the same thing is happening for the category ID as well. But we know the unit price, and then we know the units in stock, and we have the record level. So good thing with Power BI is you don't have to worry about going and searching. So here, so let's say you have the department 001, you have to go and search what's the department 001, whether it's sales or marketing. So Power BI will take care for you. So let me quickly build a table visual here. So let me take a new tab and take a table visual. And within the formatting, So let me first get the product name. Okay, so let's start with the product ID and then the product name. Okay, and within the style, you will be able to change the style of this table. So you could say it as minimal, you could say alternative rows, or you could say sparse. So anything you like, you could say. So I'll say alternative rows. And when I come back here, I'm saying I don't have the supplier ID here, but I'll try to see if there is any supplier table, the same way we have the department table separate here. So let me quickly search if I have any supplier table. So I can right click here and then I can say collapse all. So shippers, and then I have the suppliers. And then within this, let me quickly check if there is any supplier ID. So I have the supplier ID here, which is matching this supplier ID. Okay, then I can make use of this supplier table, and then I can get the company name. So that will give me the supplier name. Okay, so you see